Today's podcast is brought to you by AlleyRepair.com. Don't leave your skee-ball machines lying around collecting dust in the basement. Let AlleyRepair.com bring those machines back to life. High-quality workmanship for your skee-ball playing needs. Contact AlleyRepair.com today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Fro Football Podcast. This is Free Agent episode number 6. We're going to look at all the latest free agent signings, see the flurry of craziness that took part today. There's people on the move everywhere. Before we get going, please, if you are a diehard wrestling fan, professional wrestling, WWE style, just like I am, be sure to check out our sister show at the Fro Wrestling Podcast, available on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Podomatic, and every other server you can think of. By all means, check that out. Let's get started with today with the Cleveland Browns. They are obviously the big player today for anybody who's been paying attention to the news. The Cleveland Browns made a monstrous trade today. They traded for Brock Osweiler, who only a couple years ago was quarterbacking the Denver Broncos in that last season for Peyton Manning. He picked up for Peyton, took him to the promised land, and then Peyton ended up winning his Super Bowl. But Brock Osweiler last year signs that monstrous contract in Houston, and he really doesn't live up to any sort of semblance of expectations. The Houston Texans are straddled with this monstrous contract. They don't know what to do. They need to get some cap room. They have interest in other quarterbacks, and unfortunately with a cap hit figure of what he had, it really wasn't conducive to being able to bring in another quarterback. This year, he's due $16 million. If the Texans would have gone ahead and cut Brock Osweiler, his number would have skyrocketed. It would have been $25 million just for his contract, and they couldn't afford to eat that contract plus sign another star quarterback. There's some rumblings out there about who they want to make a move for. So in this deal, they're going to clear his cap number. They're going to ship that to the Cleveland Browns along with a second-round draft pick. For in return, they're only getting a fourth-round pick. Now, the second-round pick is next year's second-round pick. The fourth-round pick is this year's pick from the Browns. And a lot of people look at this on the surface and are like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Even if you just look at a second pick for the fourth pick, just doesn't make any sense. But when you're the Texans and you're in this tough a shape, trying to get some cap space, trying to sign a new quarterback, one who can actually do something for you. Remember, the Texans made the playoffs. They were a hair away from being able to do something special, and unfortunately, their quarterback play was horrendous. The fact that they even made the playoffs was monumental in that their defense took them there, and they had role players on both sides of the ball, whether it was the tight end Fedorowicz or if you had DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller trying to emerge, different people, Lamar Miller, all these people were contributing, but you couldn't get any good play out of the quarterback. They make the move today. They send Osweiler in a second to the Browns. The Browns send back a fourth-round pick. The Browns, now the rumor coming out is that the Browns may not even keep Osweiler. SportsIllustrated.com's Albert Breer is reporting that the Browns are likely to eat some of Osweiler's salary and try to flip him to another team to acquire some more draft picks. You know that the Browns love their draft picks. I think they have 11 picks this year in the first 6 rounds or something like that. Some obnoxious number. Looking to get another pick and flip Osweiler out again. They've got the kind of cap room they can make these things happen. There's another report saying that they may just outright cut Brock Osweiler and eat a little bit of that money because they can. It's one of those years where they can do that, and they acquired the second round pick, which is something they really wanted. Next year they're going to have another draft with a ton of picks. I think they have 3 second rounders next year. They have 5 picks in the first 65 picks. It's ridiculous. That's not the only thing they did today. They did sign Kevin Zeitler, who is a lineman. They signed Kenny Britt, the wide receiver, formerly with the Rams. They signed another lineman, J.C. Treader. They re-signed Joel Bitonio to a 5-year deal. He got $51 million. So today was a very active day for the Cleveland Browns. So they made the big splash to kick off free agent season. The Chicago Bears not far behind because, in the last 8 years, they have been straddled with Jay Cutler. And Jay Cutler is one of those guys who is frustrating because he's either a superstar waiting to happen or he's a disappointment throwing interceptions. He's got so much talent and has just never put it together and become the big play quarterback that a lot of people thought he would when he first came into the league. Today, they cut Cutler in Chicago, and instead they go ahead and sign Mike Glennon, the former Tampa Bay backup, to a 3-year, $45 million deal. And they also went out and signed wide receiver Marcus Wheaton. And that's a huge signing, in my opinion, just because Marcus Wheaton has been playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's played behind Antonio Brown. He's played behind Martavius Bryant. We had some emergence last year of people like Sammy Coates. So there's not a lot of room in Pittsburgh that he could have really made an impact. And he showed flashes at times. His first year in Pittsburgh, he really looked like he may put something together. If I know fantasy leagues, a lot of people were stowing him away as like a deep sleeper, and it just didn't come come to fruition. So maybe he'll fare better when he gets to Chicago. Tampa Bay, on the flip side, they lose their backup quarterback, who was highly sought after, but they bring in Deshaun Jackson, who is one of the speed-burning, deep-threat wide receivers, one of the best in the league. 30 years old. He's still got some years left in the tank. He's going to be paired up opposite Mike Evans. They're going to make a great 1-2 punch at wide receiver. They re-signed Chris Conte, something they really needed to get done. They signed Chris Baker. They give him a 3-year deal. And one of the ones that I thought was a little strange, they re-signed Jacquizz Rodgers to get another 2 years. They gave him $3.3 million over the 2-year span. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they already have Doug Martin under contract next year. I actually thought he may have been a cap casualty this year, but then again, the way his contract is structured, it would have been a huge hit against their cap. You would think they might have wanted to move on from him the way everything ended last season with him being deactivated and having the suspension and whatnot, but at the end of the day, they've solidified the running back position with Jacquizz Rodgers, and they have, at least up till this point, they've kept Doug Martin. 2 years and $12 million to defensive tackle Alan Branch. He's going to be staying with the New England Patriots. They also went out and they signed marquee free agent, the Steel Free Agent of the Year, cornerback Stephon Gilmore. This was the one signing that the New England Patriots, that the rest of the league did not want the New England Patriots to do. Stephon Gilmore pretty much was the prize of the free agent class this year, and going to the defending Super Bowl champions does nothing but hurt the rest of the league. These other teams need to get on board. The Patriots, just because they won a Super Bowl, they are never happy. They want to win another one, and that's the way a team ought to be. Just because you bring your city a Super Bowl doesn't mean you get to sit on your laurels and do nothing. And the New England Patriots are obviously all in on going back to the Super Bowl once again. The Arizona Cardinals signed Antoine Bethea to a 3-year deal. Cardinals not as overly active as some people thought they would be. They did re-sign Jermaine Gresham a couple days ago, but at the end of the day, not a lot of splash for the Cardinals yet. Offensive lineman Ted Larson is headed to Miami. Sports Illustrated's Kimberly Jones was reporting that they've traded for the Jaguars tight end Julius Thomas, as well as trading away offensive tackle Brandon Albert. They sent him to the Jaguars for a 7th-round pick, and they also tendered Kiko Alonso with a 1st-round offer, so that if anybody wants to pick him up, they're going to have to give up a 1st-round draft pick. So the Miami Dolphins, all sorts of busy today. The 2 trades, going for Julius Thomas, trading away the offensive tackle, picking up a 7th-round pick. It really active. You got to hope that some of these things play out for the Miami Dolphins. They've had a tough go lately. You see the hot and coldness in their team. Either Tannehill's on or Tannehill's off. Either he's laser accurate or he's missing everybody all over the field. Either he goes deep or he only goes short. He can't seem to put the whole game together, and it's really affected their team. And maybe some of these additions, maybe Julius Thomas helps the short game. Maybe you can start stretching the field with some of your other players, especially when they re-sign Kenny Stills. So the Broncos are going to move on to the Broncos. They signed Ronald Leary to a 4-year, $35 million deal. Not a huge splash. It helps solidify their positions. Orleans Dwarka, he's going to stay with the New York Giants. He signs a 1-year deal. They also signed Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall, we reported yesterday that the potential was for him to sign a 2-year deal. He did that today, made it official. 2 years, $12 million. The defensive back, Quentin Demps, is going to the Bears. He signs a contract for 3 years. There are 52.5 million reasons for Dre Kirkpatrick to celebrate. He signed with the Bengals today, as does Brandon LaFell, who re-ups with the team, who decided to retain him for 2017. If anybody wasn't paying attention to Brandon LaFell, he actually was in an interesting spot this year. He made a great tandem opposite A.J. Green, and then when Green went down to injury, LaFell, it's almost like he emerged. He found himself, because there really wasn't a lot of passing depth on the roster this year. Yeah, you have Tyler Eifert and people like that, but Eifert was hurt a good part of the year. A.J. Green goes out for a good part of the year. He picked up a rapport with Andy Dalton, and it clicked and it gelled. So I think this is a good get to keep him on the team. It's nice to see LaFell find a stable landing spot for a couple years in a row. He's been bouncing around the last few years, and it's nice to see him just find a home finally. Barry Church is going to the Jaguars. I know I'm running through these kind of quickly, but I honestly have so many to get to. I apologize if I can't expand on all these. Barry Church to the Jaguars. C.J. Spiller officially today signs the contract that was talked about a couple days ago with the Kansas City Chiefs. Another highly active team today. The Philadelphia Eagles have signed Torrey Smith to a 3-year, $15 million deal. We expect he'll be their deep threat burner that they sorely missed last year. And then they didn't stop there. They went out and they also signed the marquee wide receiver this free agent class, Alshon Jeffrey, to a 1-year, $14 million deal. This is one of those go out there and show me what you can do kind of contracts. He's got 1 year. If they love him, they could work out a long-term deal next year. If they don't, they could let him walk. And if they do like him and he doesn't want to sign a long-term deal, you could still franchise him next year. So they're in a really good position going forward at the wide receiver position. 2 whole new weapons for Carson Wentz, and you throw Jordan Matthews in the slot. They actually have a relatively formidable passing attack now. They also signed guard Chance Womack, and that's going to keep the offensive line interesting because they also decided today, they announced that they're going to keep Alan Barbary. So there's what they're going to do in the offensive line still up in the air. You got some really aging veterans on the ends playing tackle, and you just got to wonder how long those two are, Jason Peters, and how long they're going to stick around. And then you got all this at guard going on. So the Eagles' offensive line still somewhat in disarray, but at least this adds depth, adding Chance Womack. They did cut Connor Barwin today. I know there are some Philly fans that are a little bit sad about that. Connor Barwin was like a true warrior and a great guy. He did a lot for the community while he was in Philadelphia, but at the end of the day, dollars and cents, he saved over $7 million against the Eagles cap by cutting him today. So so long, Connor Barwin. I apologize for having to let you go, but got to keep on moving on. Courtney Upshaw is going to stay with the Falcons. He re-ups with their team. Nick Perry re-signs with the Packers, as does Don Barkay. Barkay signed a 1-year, $1.3 million deal, according to Michael Cohen. Marquise Goodwin, another wide receiver on the move, going to the 49ers. And then today, even the fullbacks got involved. I don't know if anybody pays attention to the fullback, but the Carolina Panthers over the last several years have had an absolute stud running fullback in Mike Tolbert. Mike Tolbert today took a walk and left the Panthers, and it's kind of a frustrating thing, I'm sure, for their running back squad because he was a driving force in why they were able to put up great rushing numbers the last couple of years, blocking for some great running opportunities. He's going to go to the Buffalo Bills. The Jaguars signed a huge free agent signing. A.J. Boye signs a contract that's going to pay him $44 million in the first 3 years of the contract. Huge opportunity for them to improve their defense. Calais Campbell, also a 4-year, $60 million deal. Just all kinds of big dollars going out today. Adam Schefter's reporting that safety Jonathan Cyprian, he's signing with the Titans. The Cowboys are looking to trade Tony Romo now. We reported yesterday that Romo was going to be cut. That's not the case now. Now the big story is the Cowboys are looking to trade Tony Romo potentially to either the Broncos or the Texans. And while the Broncos are looking at the Tony Romo possibilities, they're also seeking to do a deal with the Jets, potentially sending Trevor Siemian to the Jets. Now, the Jets, they would love to land Siemian, but if that doesn't work out, the Jets have a backup plan of their own. Their backup plan is potentially Jay Cutler, who was just now cut by the Bears. So you could see how this quarterback carousel just keeps spinning. The Bills, a couple more signings. They signed kicker Steve Hauschka, the guy who used to kick for the Seattle Seahawks, had a little tough time at the end of the season there. We'll have to see how much better he does in the cold temperatures of Buffalo. And they signed defensive back Micah Hyde. So the Bills trying to fortify that defense. They had a lot of people exit in the last couple years from that D. Now they're trying to stack it back up and become legit contenders. SportsIllustrated.com's Ian Rappaport is reporting that Barkevius Mingo is going to give it another go in football, going to the Colts for 1 year, $2.5 million. And speaking of older talents, people trying to recultivate their career, Russell Okung, the longtime stalwart of the Seahawks, left the team last year, went to Denver. Now he's going to San Diego Chargers. 4 years, $53 million. Some people thought that the Packers were going to bring Eddie Lacy back into their backfield. It looks like that may be up for grabs because Eddie Lacy is now scheduled to meet with the representatives for the Vikings and for the Seattle Seahawks. So good chance there that he's going to walk out of one of those two cities with some kind of contract offer. And right now, the Green Bay Packers are very thin at the position. I know they're talking about alternative options and things like that, but at the end of the day, they are very thin at that position. I really thought they'd make a stronger push to keep Eddie Lacy, but apparently that's not the case. The Saints, they signed defensive tackle Nick Farley, 4 years, $30 million, and offensive guard Larry Warford. They also went outside Ted Ginn Jr., who was, burning it up for Carolina 2 years ago, had a pretty serviceable year last year, much bigger impact on the return game. He ends up going to the Saints. The Rams go out and they sign former Buffalo Bill Robert Woods. He gets 5 years and $39 million, along with Andrew Whitworth, who's also going to get $36 million. So the Rams out there making a couple impact signings. Tom Pelissero is reporting that the Panthers are going to sign Matt Khalil to a 5-year, $55.5 million deal. That's a big get for the Carolina Panthers. They're trying to keep their team going at a championship level pace, and last year they fell off the radar. Horrible bounce, horrible drop after having a championship caliber season the year before. Hopefully they're looking to get back into the game this year. Defensive tackle Akeem Spence signs with the Detroit Lions. 3 years, $10.5 million. The Ravens have picked up their option on wide receiver Mike Wallace for 2017. I feel like he earned that. Even in the first few weeks of the season, Mike Wallace looked like the Mike Wallace of old, the Pittsburgh Mike Wallace. He was catching deep balls, he was getting tons of yardage after the catch, and that's what people pay Mike Wallace to do. The last couple years, whether it was in Minnesota or in Miami, didn't really get as many opportunities, didn't really perform the way Mike Wallace used to perform, and I think in the Ravens system, he worked out very well. Defensive tackle Stacey McGee is going to the Redskins on a 5-year, $25 million deal, as is defensive tackle Terrell McClain, and Ian Rappaport is reporting that Kirk Cousins is going to be signing his franchise tender offer. So again, another team, the Redskins, who are very active on the opening day of free agency. Former first-round pick Luke Joeckel is looking to get his career back on track. He's going to the Seattle Seahawks. Just as a sidebar, something I have to throw out there because there's so much going on in the world of free agency today. The Saskatchewan Roughriders do the big signing of the day. The Saskatchewan Roughriders now have a new quarterback in Vince Young. Okay, I'm not a big Vince Young guy, but the fact that anybody's given him a chance to get on a field is actually a good thing. I think he never got a fair chance after the experiment gone bad in Philadelphia, where he actually didn't do that bad, considering the team that he had around him, the situation he was thrust into. So congratulations to Vince Young getting back into football in some capacity for the CFL and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time. We'll go over more moves, more signings from around the league, start looking ahead to the draft. Special thanks go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects used in today's show. To U.S. News & World Report Best Colleges 2017, available right now at amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. To Fufu Games, newest game of strategy and collective fun. It's Legendary Elements. Travel around the universe collecting items that will make you the master of the elements. Get your copy today at www.thegamecrafter.com/Legendary Elements now. We want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. We encourage you to go to our website at www.frolifeplanning.com to learn more about what Mr. Fro can do for you in your path to higher education. Remember, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. We look forward to chatting with all of you once again, but for now, be safe, enjoy the games, and as we said at the onset of the show, be sure to check out our sister station over at the Fro Wrestling Podcast for all the latest and greatest news in the world of professional wrestling, and see what's going on. Rumor mills are flying, all kinds of things leading into WrestleMania season.